Here we go on Chicago Sam's Franchise GPS. We are talking to the International Franchise Association and head of membership, Paul Rocchio, my good friend, who is going to tell you what is going on today at the IFA. And if you are not a member, why not? There are so many great things going on to help enhance, make you more money, and protect your business and the world of franchising. You need to know what's going on over at the IFA, both on a federal and state level. Today is going to make a difference. Listen to Paul, connect with Paul and his team, and learn why there's 300 different verticals in franchising and how collaborating with verticals outside of the one that you're in can help you grow your business. And that's what it's all about here on Chicago Sam's Franchise GPS. And here we are on another episode of Chicago Sam's Franchise GPS. And I am thrilled to have a longtime friend, Paul Rocchio from the IFA. And today we're going to talk about associations and why the IFA matters to you, your business, the industry, and why collectively we are better together than as individuals. I have learned so much over the years from the IFA, what they do and how they protect us on a day-to-day basis, and why you should be a member of the IFA and work with the IFA, not only for the advocacy that they're doing both federally and on the state level, but also on the education side, which a lot of people don't know, as a resource and toolbox that is available 24/7 every day of the year for you as a franchise operator to learn, grow, and network with other people, not only in restaurant franchising, but of course, along all franchising levels in the world. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Paul to the show. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Sam. And Sam, I'm going to have to say, you are a good spokesperson for IFA. Everything you said, man, I'm going to have to pay you on the side or something, man. That was perfect. Spot on. Better together. I'm stealing that from you because at the end of the day, we all know franchising is a relationship business, right? And better together is what we're all about in franchising, but in any trade association, right? But that's what you don't have to be a member of a trade association to be successful in whatever it is you do. But of course, I'm biased. I think, especially with IFA franchising, but whether it's the NRA, NRF, or, people who take advantage of their industry trade association. Of course, franchising isn't really an industry. It's a means of distribution, but we make up 300 different industries, but for lack of a better term, it's an industry. But again, it's just like, there's no reason to go about it alone, right? And you're going to learn from other people's mistakes, and people love to give back to the people coming up the ladder behind them. I mean, it's what we do day in and day. From my vantage point, it's just the people who take advantage of a trade association, they just are more successful, I think, personally, and just, if they're a founder, CEO, or whatever, they're going to be more successful, period, I think.
100%. And one of the things we say in franchising is you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. But what's more important is it isn't just the franchise network that you sign up to be a part of. You're signing up to be in the franchise world. And in the franchise world, the one collective organization that brings us together multiple times a year that helps protect us and educate us is the IFA. So can you just give the listener, maybe this is the first time they're hearing the initials IFA, hopefully not, but could you just give the listener just a brief overview of what is IFA and why does it matter for all of our listeners?
You bet. I'll try to do the 30-second elevator pitch, but you know me, I always like to talk. But so at the end of the day, so IFA was founded in 1960 by Bill Rosenberg, the founder of Dunkin' Donuts, and a few other founders. And when I started here at IFA in March 15th of 1999, not that I'm counting, I had the pleasure of knowing Bill for the first few years that I was here. And he would always tell the story about how there were a group of founders, that met in Chicago, and he stood up from the table, threw down $100 and said, let's start this bleepity bleep bleep association. And here we are today, right? But so our mission has always been the same: protect, enhance, and promote franchising. That is what we do day in and day out. And, under the leadership of Matt Haller, our CEO, and then my direct boss, Jennifer Brandine, our COO. And then, of course, we got, Mike Lehman overseeing government relations. That is the primary goal here at IFA, is to protect the business format franchise model. And, when I started here at IFA, I was a lobbyist, about 2 years into it, got kind of fed up with government relations. I'm still a political geek, but fell in love with franchising. An opportunity opened up in membership, and, the rest is history. But in my tenure, there has been more of a direct threat against the business model almost every single year. And we are having to spend a lot of resources, to protect the business model, whether it's at the federal, state, like you said, federal, state, or regulatory side. We work, we have a seasoned team of government relations professionals, both, overseeing state government relations, and everything happens very quickly on the state side. Whereas on the federal side, it's, things tend to move, slowly. And then, on the regulatory side, whether it's with the franchise registration states and, NASA, it's, not the space agency, but the Security and Exchange folks. And our general counsel, Sarah Davies, works, very, very closely there. And, for example, we kind of brought the franchise registry back on board, working closely with the folks at the SBA. And that was a huge win for us, but really for our members and all franchising.
And Paul, that was a big win, right? Because we lost that for a while, and that hurt funding. Talk a little bit about that win, because that's a big win that you guys deserve all the pat on the back for, because that's helping me and our group.
And look, thank you. And at the end of the day, yes, the registry, they kind of just stopped it, and everybody wondered why. And then, Sarah Davies and, of course, Matt, a few other folks, working closely with the SBA, got it back up and running, because, obviously the folks, who work closely here in DC, SBA, they understand franchising, but it's the folks in the field who don't get it. And now, with the registry, and it's very simple for a franchisor. If you're not on the registry, you reach out to IFA, reach out to me, I'll connect you with the right folks. Or I have, anybody could go on and get onto the IFA registry. It's a simple form to fill out. You don't need to use a third party to do it. Anybody could do it on their own. And again, it's just wonderful, because it will help fast track an SBA loan for anybody who is on that registry. So if you've got a potential franchisee, and pick a state, any state, and if you're on the registry and they're working with an SBA rep in the field, boots on the ground, that person will, hopefully realize that the registry, because sometimes they don't, and that's where we're always educating everybody. And the SBA is now re-educating all of their people that if you're a franchisor and you're on the registry, you're kind of like pre-qualified, and make sure that those potential franchisees are fast tracked to get a loan. And even in the same vein, not look, even during the pandemic, our government relations team at the time, and our stellar members who are extremely smart and brilliant, we had a seat at the table for regarding the CARES Act, and we were able to say, listen, franchising is already, heavily regulated. You've got the FDD, you've got all the items, and, so to simplify, it was like, just give everybody, PPP money. It's going to save jobs. It's going to save the economy. So if you were a franchisor or a franchisee, and you needed, you were fast tracked to get PPP funds, and we had a seat at the table, and drafted that, the CARES Act, and made sure that franchising in the business format franchise model was incorporated into that. And that was a huge win for franchisees more than anything. And I still use that to this day when I'm talking to folks, and I'm like, hey, during the pandemic, did you and/or your franchisees take advantage of the PPP funds? And they're like, yes. I'm like, well, not me, but IFA was, and some of our stellar members were directly responsible for for saving all you guys.
Are there some hot buttons going on right now on the federal side? Because we know the states would be everywhere, and this is a national and international podcast. So let's just focus on federal. Is there a hot button issue right now that potential members or members should be aware of? So where you need support and people should be watching or going to Google and taking a look at it after this?
So the big issue that's been going on, it seems like for 20 years now, is the American Franchise Act. So it's joint employer. The joint employer issue has been rearing its ugly head for, like I said, almost 20 years now. And, we have decided to, go on the offensive, and the timing is right, but, we've got a short window. We've got we had a great win last week, but at the end of the day, we've got information on our website, and everything is templated, and we're asking everybody to make sure you're a member of Congress, and we generate these emails that goes that'll go directly to your member of Congress. Make sure that they are supporting the American Franchise Act. What it will do in a nutshell is it will codify joint employer. It will remove the business format franchise model from the joint employer issue. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if they want to go after, the gig economy, DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, that's fine. But, the way it was originally drafted, this broad definition was pulling in, the business format franchise model and basically, stating that franchisors are directly responsible and are, for the employees of their franchisees. And we know that, the main reason why anybody decides to franchise their business is to grow and expand using somebody else's capital. And the other, simplifying it, but the other, great reason why people decide to franchise their business is that you are not responsible, for hiring, paying the wages, firing, or paying benefits to the employees of the franchisee. We all know that franchisees are the owner operators of all the locations, and they are the ones responsible for hiring their staff, paying the wages for their staff, and providing benefits if they choose to. So, so at the end of the day, we're going to have this big win, but we still need support. So, please definitely, you could either, have folks reach out to me or go to franchise.org, and you will find information, especially, template emails that'll go directly. We link you to your member of Congress, whether it's on the House and Senate. And last I saw, as of last week, we had 127 co-sponsors. So this is like, really one of the best wins we've had, in years, at least since I've been here. And, but we got to make sure that it gets done.
I'm Greg Majewski, and I've been a multi-unit operator for 26 years. I know how great it feels owning the right franchise brand, but choosing the right franchisor feels even better. At Craveworthy Brands, our hospitality-driven culture sets us apart because we're invested in your success at every single stage of your journey. We're operators alongside you, paving the way forward to give you a head start on greatness. Start your franchise journey at craveworthybrands.com.
So, Paul, following up on that, we have franchisees who participate, don't participate. Let's talk about a little bit on what they're missing by not participating, because you guys are going to work hard. You're doing the initiatives. You're going to protect on the federal level. It's bigger than just them. But there's franchise owners who aren't involved in IFA or other association. What other opportunities besides the government affairs side and resources do you guys have that are at the table currently? Like CFE, the trade show?
So again, protect, enhance, promote. I mean, one of the key things that we provide, as an ROI, if you will, is really education. At the end of the day, and let me take a quick step back and explain it this way. Somebody reaches out to me and they want to franchise their business, for example. I try to talk them out of it because I'm like, you're no longer in the pizza restaurant business. You're going to be in the franchise business, totally different business. And you're then in the business of providing your opportunity to a potential owner operator, and then you're in the business of making sure and keeping them happy and making sure that they're unit level economics and that they're successful and that they're doing business and that they're because the life of as a franchisor, your lifeblood is that 6 to 10% royalty you're collecting on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. So by joining IFA, you're going to not only learn from all the events we do and our publications, our online publications, but, and again, time is precious, but for those folks who could dive in and sign up for our Certified Franchise Executive program, our CFE program, or what I refer to as like a master's degree in franchising. And then, you are going to learn everything you need to know about franchising. And then most importantly, and it is the one requirement is to take Frankguard, which is our franchise sales compliance class. And most of this can be done online. Some of it is done in person. We have some partnerships, or what I refer to as CFE program providers. University of Louisville is one of our key providers, but there's others. And then, there's also, other non-IFA conferences that if they are a CFE program provider, you're going to get credit for that. And even if you're, if you've been around franchising for a number of years, one of the things that my colleagues who oversee, our education, but the CFE program, they will look at how many years you've been in franchising. And then also, if you've attended any IFA events or non-IFA events that were providing or that people were getting, CFE credit for participating in those events, they will grandfather in whatever you did in the past 12 months. So, you could usually complete it it takes about 3 years, to complete it, but you could, believe it or not, I mean, some people get it done in about a year, like maybe 18 months sometimes, because there's, there's a number of things that our education team look at. And then you have to renew that, every 3 years. So again, it's just, it's keeping, franchise executives, on top of everything that's, best practices, but also what's happening on the legislative front. It's just making you the best of the best, or the cream of the crop within the franchising community. And it also ties into just, the networking. I mean, what I always hear from our members, or even from potential members, is they want to be able to network with their peers, and also network with their peers in other industries to learn. And in some cases, it's not only to learn best practices or how to do things right, but it's also to kind of verify or confirm that, man, we're actually doing everything right. And there's a lot to be said for that. Same goes for me when I go to, there's an association for everything. So ASAE, the Association for Associations, it's great when I go to those events, or, US Chamber, conferences, to realize that, gosh, there's a lot to be said for realizing that, man, we do a lot of things right here, but it's always good to always be aware of what's happening out there. And of course, everything's about AI these days, right? And we're hearing it from our members. We just had our summer board meeting last week. Everybody's, all the C-suite folks and their teams are all using AI for various different things, but they all, want to learn from one another. Everybody seems to be using Claude. Claude seems to be the flavor of the month now. I haven't migrated to Claude yet. I'm still using ChatGPT, but, our members are using it, for FranDev. They're using it, and then they're trying to all be careful, but they're using it for every aspect of, of their franchise, whether it's on ops or internally with HR or whatever. But then they all want, or at least, they all want IFA to be able to be the clearinghouse. And that's what associations end up doing at the end of the day, is when it comes to any kind of an issue that is beneficial to all of the members involved, they want the association to be able to kind of pick up the ball, run with it, and help educate everybody on what they need to know, right? So, at the end of the day, that is what, we always do here. But we also have a number of various committees at IFA. And again, it's hard for people to always, because time is precious, to take advantage of stuff, but we have a number of different, membership committee, a franchisor forum, a franchisee forum. And even on the franchisee side, listen, franchisees join IFA. Do we provide a lot of tangible benefits for franchisees? Not necessarily. Yes, we have supplier members that, but every franchisor has, kind of like their preferred vendors, if you will. But franchisees that are very active in IFA sit on our franchisee forum, sit on the IFA board. We've had franchisees as chairs of the IFA. They love to network with other franchisees from other systems, those that aren't mumbos, right? That belong to that have like 5 or 6 different brands, in their portfolio, because they want to be able to learn, from other franchisees and how things are done at other systems, or to kind of, like I said earlier too, just to say, wow, our system kicks butt and we do, my franchisor is providing amazing services to us. So there's also that aspect of it. But, getting back to on the legislative side again, the most powerful voice, whether it's on the federal or state side, is the voice of the franchisee. And I see it all the time. When we go into a member's office, when somebody says they're a franchisee, that's who the member wants to talk to, because that franchisee is providing jobs in the member's district. They're paying taxes in the member's district. They're supporting, the softball team, the baseball team, the football team. They're giving back to the community. That franchisee is who they want to hear from. And that's been the big issue, because everybody, nobody understands, franchising. They think it's big business. And we have a great PR campaign. I could call it a PR campaign, but it's, franchising means local. And we've done campaigns like this over the years, but this is resonating. It's resonating with me, but it's just like, it's the best campaign I've ever seen. We've got our stellar franchisee members saying, this is my big chicken,
And a franchisee needs to understand that federal and state representatives work for them.
Exactly.
It's not the other way around. I remember my first meetings and going into these offices. You're nervous, right? Because you see the suits on television, right? You don't understand that they are just local business people who have chosen to raise their hand because there are alternative reasons why they chose to run for politics. And at the end of the day, they need to understand the voice of their constituents. So if you are listening to this and you are a franchisee and you are in business or a franchisor, and you have not invited your local, federal, state, in some municipalities, county, and you do not understand that, you need to call IFA Government Affairs or call Paul and have them explain that how the system works, and they'll be more than happy to pick up the phone, connect you, and make that call with you. Because the more you know your representatives, the more they understand that, as Paul just mentioned, you create the tax revenue that supports their jobs and pays their bills and contributes the donations to their community, the more success you will have. And the more they understand the decisions that they're trying to make have an impact, not only on the business, but on all of those entry-level jobs. And in my category, the restaurant business.
Oh, 100%.
We're employing 14
Yes.
and a half, 15, 16-year-olds. We give first jobs to more Americans than anybody else in the country. We give people 1 in 3 Americans start their first job in the hospitality industry. We teach soft skills like there are nobody's business. And without this, legislators need to understand that connection. So don't be afraid, right, Paul? Like
100%.
You talk to them all the time. They put their pants on. The ladies and gentlemen put their pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else.
And I always tell people, because listen, when I moved over to IFA, it was to build our political grassroots program. So I started our lobby day, which we now call Advocacy Summit, and it's it's my 27-year-old baby now, but it's not a baby anymore. But so that's I put my lobbying hat on once a year to take a delegation up on Capitol Hill during advocacy. And I always tell people, and we still to this day tell everybody when we're prepping them, for, a day before we go up on the Hill, don't feel bad if you're going to meet with some, young 22-year-old kid, because, that's the staffer. And the staffers are really, we jokingly say they're the ones running the country. They're the ones telling their boss, this is an issue that you really got to care about, But of course, in some cases, and in most, and I'm seeing it more and more now, we are, the member of Congress or the senator is meeting with the delegation. And I've been seeing that more and more every year, because at the end of the day, we're continuing to beat the drum on the business format franchise model. And we've got an amazing, powerful political action committee, and it's paying off for franchising, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, yes, this is the greatest democracy on the face of the earth, but at the end of the day, it's all about it's all about the mighty dollar, and members are, once that member gets elected, they start their reelection campaign, and everything costs money. But listen, we are by supporting members of Congress, it is benefiting the business format franchise model at the end of the day. And look, and it's not just in the U.S. So I go to the Canadian Franchise Association's annual conference every year. It happened to be in Ottawa in April, and they had their lobby day, the day before their convention kicked off. So it was just, I got to go up and meet with, MPs, members of parliament. And the first meeting, like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes into this conversation, and we had franchisors, franchisees, and suppliers in the room. And all of a sudden, the MP stops us and he says, wow, now I get it. 2 weeks ago, I met with a Dunkin' franchisee who had just opened up. I didn't realize that they were a franchisee. Now I get it. And I was like, my gosh, it was no different than it is in the US. Same exact thing. And here you are thinking, like, people understand the business model. They don't. They think these are glorified managers or something, It is unbelievable. But this guy got it and he understood it. So we did our job, whether it's in the US or in Canada or anywhere else for that matter. But
and to your point, Paul, that's it. I've sat in the room with representatives who were franchisees.
Yes.
Right. And sometimes they forget what their constituent base is, and they need to understand that the non-business owners don't understand the impact of the decisions that they're going to make and how it trickles down, right? If business was this easy, everybody would be doing it. Isn't that the old adage?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Right?
100%.
I mean, franchisees...
Sam, 100%.
Franchisees put a big investment, franchisors put a big investment and take risks on both sides of the fence to put and drive the workforce in America, right? I mean, what is the impact of franchising in America currently?
And thank you. Franchising has a huge impact in the U.S. economy. There are, over 800,000 franchise establishments in the U.S., representing, close to 9 million jobs. And in terms of economic output, it's over $800 billion in economic output. And again, it's 300 different industries that utilize the business format franchise model as a means of distribution and growth. So, franchising it represents about 3% of the gross domestic product in the U.S. It's unbelievable.
So, knowing how big it is and how big franchising is, and you want to get involved, the next big opportunity is going to be 2027. Where can we come see Paul and these 300 different verticals? Where's it going to be, Paul?
We will be at Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas, February 22nd through the 24th, 2027. And as Sam said, Sam and I would love to see everybody there. And please reach out to me if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. But we would love to see you in Vegas at our annual convention.
And where can people find out more information on the IFA, Paul?
You could always go to franchise.org. We have, everything is on our website, but always, if people have questions, they can always reach out to me. I'm like, look, on the membership team here, and there's only 3 of us. I oversee, the 2 folks on my team, but, we always provide concierge service to our members. So folks are reaching out to us all the time. I like to say I'm the Fran Dev and the Fran Ops, if you will, because we're working on bringing in new members to IFA, franchisors, franchisees, and suppliers. But then we're working with our existing members to try to keep everybody happy, So, people could always just reach out to me. But franchise.org has a ton of helpful information on there. And but you could always reach out to me as well.
Well, Paul, we're going to have a little summer break here. The whole industry gets some conference relief for the summer siesta.
Amen.
But you and I are going to be getting back together in September. We're going to do some fun things down in Florida, and the IFA has 2 specific expos outside of the convention, and want to talk about the one here in 26 and one coming up in 27. Want to put in a little shameless plug that my good friend John Taffer will be keynoting the one coming up here in September with Taffer's Tavern. But you want to talk about the 2 expos that IFA has?
You bet, and thank you. So we have the IFA World Franchise Show, September 25th and 26th in Fort Lauderdale at the Expo Center. And then in 2027, 3 years ago, we started, we have a show in London in the UK, and that is April 16th and 17th of 2027. So if you're looking to expand, not just in the UK, but in Europe, and globally, definitely come to the show in the UK, but also, the show in Fort Lauderdale, draws from the Pacific Rim, Central and South America, and a number of states. Those are the only 2 franchise expos that we are, that we have now. And so, look, Sam and I would love to see you guys in Fort Lauderdale, September 25th and 26th. And if you're looking to expand into the UK, or if you want to check out a show outside the U.S., April 16th and 17th of 2027 in London. And we have information on franchise.org about both. But like I said, you can always reach out to me, and I'll put you in touch with the right folks.
I will say the Florida show last year was awesome.
It was.
I got to hang out a little bit with Damon John.
Yeah,
he came to visit the show and walk, and I know he got inspired, and I got to spend a little time with Paul and Matt Haller and Damon, and we walked the floor and talked franchising, and he knows my boss, Shaquille O'Neal, because who doesn't know Shaquille?
Shaquille O'Neal, who's that?
Small guy.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm going to put Paul on my shoulders so he can look eye to eye with Shaquille.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So we're going to have a little bit of fun. But this show, we got John Taffer. He's going to talk about Taffer's Tavern. He's also going to talk about his service model and what's made him successful over the years. And I will say he will not disappoint. If you have not seen John do a keynote, you are in for something special. And if you are looking for that motivation that will carry you in through the end of the year, you do not want to miss John at the IFA event in Fort Lauderdale in September 25th Do not miss it. It will be a great show. It will be a great international presence.
Amen.
I was there for the kickoff event, and I'm super excited to be back. Paul is everywhere. If you want to know what's going on in franchising, you want to know how to maximize the services, benefits, opportunities, start with franchise.org. It's an amazing spot. I have learned so much over the years there. And whenever I do have a question, Paul is only a text or a phone call away. Him and his team are the concierge of the Franchise Association world. I appreciate it, Paul. Thanks for telling our listeners a little bit more about the Franchise Association, what you guys do, how you protect advocacy, and really share what is going on, not only on the DC level, but on the state level. And we hope that the listeners, not only the new franchisees, but existing franchisees and franchisors, and everybody who turned in the Chicago Sam's Franchise GPS got a little bit more information about what the International Franchise Association is doing. If I can ever be of assistance, you know how to find me at Chicago Sam. It has been an absolute pleasure, Paul. We will see you on the next episode.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, Sam. You're the best.